your source for everything paranormal. Parax.
Throughout the ages, history has been altered by word of mouth and the misrepresentation of those who might not have been present when some of the world's most significant events took place. Channelers Barry and Connie Strohm bring through the spirits of those who actually witnessed or took part in these historical events and lets them tell their stories in their own words. Welcome to Channeling History. And now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strohm.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Channeling History. You should probably know by now that we're the only show where all of our guests are on the other side of the life veil. And we're brought to you every Sunday on the Parax Radio Network at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We invite you to join us in the chat room and submit your own questions.
I'm Connie Strohm, your co-host. We would really appreciate if you would tell your friends about us so that we can continue to grow our audience, because we kind of think we have some really good information that we get out there. All of our shows are available for download on Podomatic.com and our YouTube channel. Tonight, we're going to channel the spirit of Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple Computer.
Well, and as you know, we always try to give a short disclaimer. The opinions or statements voiced on our show are the channeled words of the spirits, do not necessarily reflect our opinions, those of the Parax Network, or of our sponsors.
We have, at this time, over 270 videos available on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search Barry Strohm. You will find all our Channeling History shows here, as well as the podcasts, A Weekly Message from Jesus and Eternity Speaks. Last week, we had an interview with the famous comedian Bob Hope. He told us about his life, entertaining the troops, and his philanthropy. It was a very good show, we think, and we hope you'd enjoy it.
Okay, when we begin channeling tonight, Connie will ask the questions, and I will answer the questions in the words of Steve Jobs. Before we channel, we also say a prayer of protection. Connie will now say the prayer, and then we will begin.
God, please grant us your wisdom and protection. Grant us the knowledge that we can handle and keep us safe from all things that will harm us. Keep the messages positive and pure love. Keep us safe from our egos. We ask these things in the light of the seen, the unseen, and the honesty of God.
Okay, Connie, I've been looking forward to this tonight, so let's get her started.
Okay, Steve, welcome to our show. Thank you so much for coming. Would you like to begin with a message?
Yes, I would. I want to thank you for inviting me to come. I was surprised when the guides came to me and mentioned that you would like to have me on your radio show. I think it's an honor to do it, and this is the first time since I've been on the other side that I've been able to speak to the human side. I've been here now quite a while, and I've settled in, and it's a wonderful place. I think that my life helped a lot of people. I tried to do a lot of things. A lot of things worked. Some of them didn't work. But all in all, I think that we were pretty successful. I'm not sure there's anybody that hasn't heard the word Apple Computer or know about our products. I was sorry to leave when I did, because I felt that we were just beginning a new segment of our business. We were starting to do the iPhones and iPads and iPods and all the I's. And I felt that it was going to be a very, very interesting future for the company. They've done a pretty good job, and I'm really quite sorry that I missed it. But all in all, I've adjusted. I understand what happens over here. As I said before, it's an amazing place. So I'm ready. If you have some questions, let's get started.
I do have a few. You were raised by adoptive parents. Tell us about why your birth mother did not choose to raise her own child.
I was a surprise pregnancy for my birth mother, and she was definitely not ready. She had doubts about the father, whether he was going to be a good father. She came to the United States and chose not to have an abortion, thank goodness, but to go ahead and have me adopted. She wanted me to be adopted by some wealthy parents that would guarantee that I would have the opportunity to go to college. It was an interesting start to my life, but once I got over here, I realized that many of the things that took place were actually part of my life plan. I had a lot of resentment for her through much of my life, but I truly loved my adopted parents. I never even liked them to be referred to as adoptive parents, just simply my parents. They were great people. They tried to do their absolute best for me. There were times that I was very difficult. I was raised during the 60s. There were a lot of things going on in the 60s that affected your life. It was the time of the hippie culture, Vietnam. There were a lot of things going on. They did their absolute best. I would never have a word of criticism for them. They're wonderful people. I really could not have had a better set of parents.
Yeah, your birth mother chose a wealthy couple, but that did not go through with your adoption. Why did that happen?
The couple that my mother chose, or my birth mother chose, they were attorneys. They would have a great future, except for one little thing. They didn't want a boy, they wanted a girl. So that when I popped out, they realized that I wasn't a girl. So they refused to take me.
Okay, your adoptive parents that you loved so much, Paul and Clara Jobs, they did not meet the criteria your birth mother required for the adoptive parents. Will you tell us what took place that you were actually placed with them as a permanent adoption?
My birth mother didn't approve of them, and she was actually fighting the fact that I would have been placed there. I say we. The adoption only took place when Paul and Clara decided that they would guarantee that I would be sent to a good college. Once they made that guarantee, my birth mother relented, and I went home with them. And as I told you before, they were the most incredible people.
It's wonderful. How would you describe yourself as a child?
I think difficult would probably sum things up. I was a bright child, and because of it, school bored me. I was fairly introverted, didn't make a whole lot of friends, became interested in some hippie type things. There were times that I think my mother actually thought she made a mistake and should have let them find somebody else for me. In spite of all the testing that I gave them, they were still wonderful people.
Why did you choose Reed College in Portland, Oregon?
I thought that it would give me a good technical background. I was interested in a bunch of different things at the time. I knew Reed was very expensive. I didn't realize just how much of a burden it would be for my parents. It was a beautiful place, and I thought that I could get along well with a bunch of the students up there. So it was my choice. It was where I wanted to go.
How did it work out for you?
It didn't. I was bored by the classes. I realized that it was terribly expensive for me to go there. I knew that it was putting a huge burden on my parents. My dad tried. He had saved money. He did the best he could. He had been in the Coast Guard. He had done mechanical work, but he just never made the amount of money that would have been required to send me to such an expensive institution. So I did myself and I did my parents a favor by dropping out.
Okay, after you dropped out of college, you monitored a class in calligraphy. How did that affect you?
I really enjoyed the class in calligraphy. It made sense to me. The whole reason that our computers had all the different fonts, different varieties of writing, the class that gave me the love of calligraphy laid that background for me. So when we were writing the code for the computers, we incorporated a bunch of fancy fonts and things that the other computers at the time did not have. Calligraphy is a lost science. Very few people understand it or even would take a class in it today. But I thought it was just a beautiful art form, and it was something that I really enjoyed. It was one of the few things that I actually enjoyed in college.
It is beautiful. In 1974, you traveled to India. How did that trip affect your life?
Very much. I was grasping for spirituality and understanding. I thought that Buddhism would answer a bunch of my questions. I wanted to travel, and I went to India and I sought out masters that would try to give me enlightenment. It was a time of understanding. It was a time of forming values. It was a time of understanding what was going on around me. I became so enthusiastic with the Buddhist way of life that I wanted to become a monk. I actually shaved my head, and I tried for a while, but I just realized in my heart that there was more that I wanted to do than sit and think about things for the rest of my life. I wanted to do things. So I did return to the United States after about 7 or 8 months. But the time I spent with the Buddhists laid a great foundation for me of understanding. They're wonderful people. And if I had to do all over again, I would absolutely do it.
How did this period of your life affect your business career?
It taught me that I needed to understand. It taught me that I was not going to know everything. It taught me that I would have to have individuals around me that would understand the aspects that I did not understand. I had dropped out of college, so I really had little background in computers. I understood a lot about marketing. I understood a lot about the psychology of working with people. My background in Buddhism helped me apply a lot of the principles that I would need to be successful in the future.
You experimented with psychedelic drugs, especially LSD. How did that work out for you?
Actually, I enjoyed it. A lot of the experiences that I had seemed to be out of body. I didn't fully understand how dangerous the drugs were at the time. I mean, in those days, a lot of people did LSD. There was a whole generation that was out there tripping. It gave me experiences. Some of the out-of-body things were really enjoyable. I tried the psychedelics. I tried marijuana, LSD. Thankfully, I did not get involved with the hard drugs like cocaine. I must admit I did try them once and realized that they were very, very dangerous. I wanted to be very careful that I didn't get involved with anything that was totally habit forming. So I stayed away from the hard drugs. But I must admit that some of my experiences with LSD were very enlightening. Uh, Sometimes in those days, I just simply wanted to escape, and the psychedelics would help me do it. Now, I certainly am not recommending to anybody out there that they try it, because it is obviously can be habit forming and fatal. I know a lot of people committed terrible acts under LSD. For me, it was a pretty good thing, but don't try it. You never know what strength of drugs you're getting. Many of the things when you're young you don't think about. But now that I'm over here and I can see the terrible effects that drugs have on individuals, I can highly recommend that you don't do it.
Okay, we have an interesting question from one of our listeners. What role did the meditation play in the ideas that came to you?
When you're studying to be a monk, meditation is a very, very large thing. I believe that some of the images that would come to me in meditation were absolutely my guides speaking to me. They were telling me that the answer to my life was going to be hard work and dedication. In meditation, they told me that I was going to accomplish great things, which in my mental state at that time surprised me. It told me that I needed to treat individuals with love. It taught me that I needed to, as I became successful, to give back to those in need. Meditation actually gave me a lot of great ideas that I did try to fulfill as my life improved and as you know, I became fairly successful. I suggest anybody tries meditation. Some people can't do it. I was very successful at it. And there were times throughout my life that I would step back, try to meditate a situation, and often I would receive answers through my meditation.
Will you tell us about Steve Wozniak?
Steve was a genius. Met him in college. He had incredible technical knowledge about computers. I never had that type of technical knowledge. Steve could do things with circuit boards, with concepts. He was, well, he still is, a very intelligent person. He's a good person. We worked together for many, many years. He provided the technical knowledge, and I provided a lot of the sales, marketing, conceptual ideas for him. You could tell Steve an idea, and he could write the code to accomplish it. I cannot say enough about Steve. He is a wonderful person. There were times we had disagreements, but we always stayed friends. Even though Steve wasn't a part of the business at the end of my life, we still spoke a lot, we talked, and all I can say is he's just a wonderful person.
Would you describe yourself as a hippie during that period of time in your life?
Depends how you define a hippie. I considered myself a very free spirit. I didn't like to wear shoes, so I would go barefoot a lot. Sometimes my dress, you might have considered that. Let my hair grow. I tried to be a free spirit. I think that my free spirit helped give us some of the originalities and original concepts that made us so very successful. You had to think out of the box. My living style was out of the box, and I think that it helped us.
Obviously, it was a good thing. Tell us about the early days of Apple Computer.
Well, in the earliest days, Steve and I were working in my dad's garage. We actually built our first computer components there. I would talk to Steve about what I thought we should do and what I thought the people would like to have, and he was, with his brilliance, was able to carry out the technical part of it. We actually started constructing our first Apple computers. I think we sold maybe 200 of the first ones. But we laid a foundation initially. Once we established that we had a product that would work, a product that was unique, and a product that people would buy, we began to be able to find individuals that would invest in our business. We started to grow. We started to do computer shows where people would see what our concepts were. In those days, Apple was our ideas, and Apple was the most innovative company. It was before we were facing a lot of competition. It was actually a very amazing time that we were able to take such a basic beginning and make it grow, make people or have people understand that we had a unique concept, have people buy the equipment so that they could accomplish their projects. We tried to do things that were different. In the early days, we would hire people. Sometimes the people worked out, sometimes they didn't. One thing that we required was hard work. We tried to make the early participants, put them in a financial position where they would share in the rewards. Many of the early people that were with us are very wealthy today. We tried to share the benefits, and by doing that, the people worked harder and put their hearts into what they were doing.
Okay, you had a long-term relationship with Chris Ann Brennan. When in 1978 she gave birth to a baby girl, you denied paternity, but the DNA test proved that you were the father. Why did you deny it?
Because I was a stupid kid. I was young. We were starting to be successful in our business. I felt that a child out of matrimony like that was going to be a problem for me. This was one of the things that I regret in my life was how I acted when Lisa was born. As I look back at it, I can't believe that I did it. I should have accepted the responsibility. But I guess it was just young and stupid.
Okay, you did not initiate a relationship with Lisa until she was 7. Why?
Well, for one thing, Chris Ann was very upset with me for not accepting the responsibility. She was trying to raise the child. She was in a poor financial position. By the time Lisa was 7, I started to realize the stupidity of what I was doing. She was actually a wonderful child when I got to know her. She was very enlightening for me. She helped me mature. I guess in the beginning I was just totally immature.
In 1985, you resigned from Apple Computer. What happened?
Apple decided that it wanted to go a different direction. I thought that the Macintosh was going to be the continuing product that would sell. They thought that there were that it was not a good idea. The board maneuvered that they could get enough stock that they could lower my responsibilities with the company. I finally got very upset, and I gave them a resignation letter. And then I sold my stock, which was very stupid. But leaving Apple turned out to be a very, very good thing in the long run for me.
Okay, so you didn't get fired, you left, but they forced you, even though you were the owner.
They forced me out. They were going to put me in a position of which I would have no responsibilities. They said they wanted me to stay, but I knew that was a lie. They wouldn't have done what they did. I think they truly felt that they were doing what was best for the company. But I wanted no part of the direction they were taking it.
Okay, how did leaving Apple affect your life?
Well, it threw me for a loop for 3-4 months. My baby was gone. My company that I started, it took me a while to get over it. But then I decided that I would just simply start in. It wasn't that I didn't have money. I had funding that I could start other businesses. I started the next computer. I started a graphics company called Pixar that became very successful. The businesses that I started after leaving Apple were very successful. They could have been more successful, but it opened different gateways for me. Pixar Entertainment proved to be an incredible business opportunity. We did things with Pixar that had never been done before. We actually won Academy Awards with some of the movies we did at Pixar. It was, all in all, I think it was probably a good thing because it widened my horizons.
How did Next affect the internet?
It became the operating system that was the basis for the internet when it formed. It also became a company that Apple purchased back, and that is what brought me back into the Apple fold. It was never overly successful. It was successful, but the concepts laid a great foundation for others.
Steve, what do you consider Apple's greatest product?
Well, the greatest product while I was alive, I would call the Macintosh. Now that I'm gone and they've introduced all of the eyes, I think that the iPhone is probably the greatest product that they have.
And what do you consider the greatest failure of Apple?
The greatest failure of Apple was a computer that I named after my daughter Lisa. It just simply didn't sell. It was too expensive. It was probably my biggest failure.
Do you approve of the way Apple's being run today?
Yes, actually I do. They aren't coming up with some of the great innovative ideas of totally different products. But what they're doing is they're maximizing their success off of the product lines that they have. The whole concept of the eyes, the iPhones, iPods, etc., they are making great products. They're making products people want to buy, and they're making products that people will continue to buy. They've obviously increased their stock shares amazingly. They've held their market shares or increased it. So actually, I'm very, very happy with what is going on with them at this point.
Okay. In 1991, you married Lorene Powell. Will you tell us about her?
She is a wonderful person. I married her. We had children. She is a wonderful, intelligent woman. She is managing the estate that I left her. She has increased the dollar value. She's doing a lot of charity work. She's helping others. It's just, she's just a wonderful person. I loved her. I love her now. I'm with her a lot, and watching what she does. I just cannot say enough about her. Okay, Connie, let's take a short break here, and we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Don't go away. Channeling History will return right after these brief messages.
In order for the light to shine so brightly, the darkness must be present. Tune in every Monday at 10 o'clock. The Dark Sun Rising on the Para-X Radio Network.
Hi, this is Marla Brooks from Stirring the Cauldron. Thursdays are a great night on the Para-X Radio Network. We start off the evening with Journey into the Light, Chapter 3, with your hosts, Psychic Little T and Tabby Cat Gash at 7 p.m. Eastern. Then, on the first and third Thursdays of the month at 8 p.m., it's Tango and Friends, hosted by Bruce Tango. And on the alternate Thursdays at 8 p.m., tune in to Stirring the Cauldron, the archive podcast. Every week at 9 p.m. Eastern, join me on Stirring the Cauldron Live. And then at 10 p.m., stick around for New Aeon Now with Lily Alley, Davron Michaels, and Christine Matza. Finally, to round out the night, join Dr. Kelly Renee Schutz on the Paranormal Encounters podcast. All this every Thursday, right here on Para-X.
Have you ever wondered what Jesus and his followers would say if you could receive their messages today? In his new book, Spirits Speak, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirits, channeler and author Barry Strohm answers those questions for you. Using his gift of spirit communication, he brings you messages from such holy spirits as Moses, John the Baptist, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Jesus, and even Mother Teresa and the Reverend Billy Graham. They discuss topics that are important for contemporary life in these troubled times. Spirits Speak, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirits is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other booksellers. Signed copies are available on the author's website, spiritspredict.com. After reading this book, you will never again say, "What would Jesus say or do?" Welcome back to Channeling History. Now, here are your hosts, Barry and Connie Strohm.
Okay, everybody, welcome back. Connie, let's get on with our questions.
Okay, when you had your contract with Pixar with Disney, you couldn't reach an agreement with Michael Eisner at the Disney Corporation. What is your opinion of Michael Eisner?
Michael can be very difficult to work with. I could not come to an agreement with him. I think we'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Why did you select Disney in the first place?
We needed somebody to distribute the movies that we're making at Pixar, and Disney had the largest distribution network out there. So we thought it was a logical choice for us.
Yeah. Okay, what is your opinion of the current Disney Corporation?
I think that Disney has become too politically correct. They are also trying to raise their prices to a point that the average individual is not going to be able to afford to go visit them. I speak with Walt over here, and he tells me that one thing he always wanted to do was to have entertainment that the family could afford. They're driving the prices so high that very few of the people of middle and lower income are able to afford a visit to Disneyland or Disney World at this point. I think that Disney should reconsider some of their goals.
Yes, Walt agrees with you. Bob Iger replaced Michael Eisner as head of Disney in 2005. What's your opinion of Bob Iger?
Bob is much easier to get along with, but as I say, I think that some of the goals that they've set for the company are not in keeping with what Walt would like.
Okay. Microsoft was a longtime competitor with Apple. What is your opinion of Bill Gates?
I have multiple opinions of Bill Gates. I think Bill has got a great mind. I think he understands finances as well as anybody and that has started any great corporations. I think that he has used some business practices that are unscrupulous. He combined with IBM, and I think they basically made decisions that locked many other people out of the business. They would use pricing structures that would drive any competition away from them. They developed an operating system, and that was what they decided was going to be the basis. The Windows package was, I considered, a much lower quality than what we were offering at Apple. But through the use of clones and cheaper computers, they established a type of monopoly position with Windows. As I said, there are things that Bill has done, and he has been a huge success. There's no question about that. But I think that some of his business practices left a bit to be desired.
Yeah, now that you're on the other side, what do the guides have to say about Bill Gates and his lifestyle?
Bill is doing some things that he probably should not be doing. He has been unscrupulous, as I said. He's developed a huge corporation. It's either generally Apple or Microsoft are the largest capitalized institutions in the country. But he has done some things that I do not envy.
Is there anything that you really admire about Bill Gates?
I admire the fact that he has become such a success. Anybody that can drive a corporation to the extent that he has built, that is something you have to admire.
Is there anything you do not admire about him?
I don't admire some of his business practices. He has driven a lot of competitors out of business. He has built an institution that once you use his products, it's very difficult not to. He has done some things that I just simply don't approve of.
Yeah. Will you tell us about the relationship of Microsoft and IBM?
They combined in the early days to create basically a monopoly position. The IBM would make the computers and Microsoft would do the operating system. They would encourage the use of cheap clone computers so that they could further Microsoft. Our computers were of higher quality and higher priced. Our operating system was better than Windows ever was or will be. But through creating these almost monopolistic practices and driving competitors out of business, they truly hurt the computer market and what advances we could have made.
Yeah. So how much better do you think the world would be today if natural competition had evolved instead of the approach of Microsoft and IBM?
I think that we would be much further advanced in our technologies. The combination of Microsoft and IBM drove a lot of competition out of business. Some of those competitors had some very unique ideas, and if those ideas would have been able to come to fruition, I think we would be much more advanced than where we are now. It's sad that the government allowed such things to take place, but then if you make the proper contributions, a lot can be accomplished.
That is true. What is the Apple ecosystem like?
All of our systems overlap. If you have an iPhone, then you will probably have an iPad, and you will learn to use the technologies of probably an Apple computer. Once you become accustomed to the fairly unique operating systems that we have, it becomes very difficult to change to another product. People look at change as very difficult. That is why we are so good at holding our customer base.
Okay. What effect has Google had on Apple and Microsoft?
Google has had a very bad effect on the market. They offer their products for free. They don't. They earn their monies in different ways. They sell individuals information. In the beginning, that was basically how Google made profits, was selling information from people. Once you use their systems, they track you, they understand what's going on, and they have no problem selling that information. So Google has been a very difficult business when it comes to protecting people's privacy.
Okay, we have another interesting question from one of our listeners. Are you aware, now that you're on the other side, are you aware of alien technology? And what do you think about that?
Now that I'm on the other side, I understand just how basic our information systems and our knowledge really is. The other great intelligent civilizations in the galaxy have got technologies that are so much greater than what we have that you would not believe it. We have advanced in our technologies, but we are still quite limited, and we know almost nothing in comparison with what the other great civilizations know.
That is what we've been told. What is the difference in the basic operating philosophies of Microsoft and Apple?
Microsoft basically licenses their operating systems and charges for it. Apple sells the product and trusts that their people will continue to use their systems. Microsoft attempts to build monopolies. They try to lock down all the operating systems with all of the clone computers. Apple tries to basically do their own thing.
Okay, by the late 1990s, Apple was in trouble and you returned to Apple. What changed and how did you revitalize the company?
Well, Apple wanted to buy my new next company and my graphics company. Once they repurchased my companies, I gained control of the stock and managed to take over and get into my old position. Once that happened, we were free to advance into towards the eye markets. It was, I guess, the way things were supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Throughout your life, you did much philanthropic work, but much of it was kept secret. Will you tell us about some of the charities you supported?
We supported many hospitals. We did a lot of charity work. I never thought it was something that I wanted to take credit for. After my passing, my wife has done a lot of charities. We actually did a lot more, and it was just simply something that that we wanted to do. Helping others is very basic.
Yeah. What were your beliefs in God and the afterlife?
I was very unsure. I did not understand how an afterlife or a God could really exist. We were very technically oriented. I had never really seen proof of it. I never truly understand the role of guides and what it played. So I had serious doubts about God and an afterlife.
You were diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in 2003. What made you decide to try to cure it with holistic remedies?
I was a vegetarian. I always tried to live a very basic life. I figured that diet, holistic remedies would work. It was a very stupid thing. I should have just gone and had the surgery.
Do you think that decision shortened your life?
Yes, I know it did.
Okay. In 2011, you resigned from Apple and turned the reins over to Tim Cook. Do you approve of how the company has been run since your resignation and passing?
I basically do. Tim is a wonderful person. He's doing a good job. He certainly built the capitalization of the company. All in all, I think that Tim was the best choice I could have made.
Okay. Did your opinion about God change as you approached your time of passing?
As you know you're going to die, you hope that there really is a God in an afterlife. I was never getting any proof of it, but I certainly hoped that there was an afterlife and that I would qualify for it.
Okay, it is written that your final words as you were passing were, "Oh, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow." What did you see as you were passing over?
All of a sudden, I was aware of this incredible world. I was seeing departed loved ones were coming towards me. I was seeing what appeared to be a type of tunnel in front of me. I was seeing these brilliant colors. I was utterly astonished. I didn't have any idea. I had hoped that there was an afterlife. But all of a sudden, I was seeing this incredible grandeur in front of me. I was seeing people that had passed. My friends were there. There was an angel. I'd never believed in angels. I didn't think it was possible. But I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. And indeed, those were my final words.
Mm-hmm. Okay, how were you judged when you arrived in heaven?
I was judged pretty well when I arrived in heaven. I had been sometimes difficult to work for. I had done some things that I was sorry for, especially not getting close to my daughter, my first daughter, Lisa. But I had tried to help others. I had done a bunch of charity work through the years. I had made many people wealthy. I had been good to my original employees. I had tried to let my employees participate as we grew and as we became more profitable. I had never really done anything that was truly against the teachings of God. Buddhists live a good life. They try to help one another. They try to see the good in things. They see the wonderful things in nature that surrounds us. I had tried to do things to help the environment. We guided the company towards products that were environmentally helpful. I had really done a lot. My guides pointed out some of the stupid things that I did, but all in all, they said that I had done a good job of following my life plan and that I had helped enough people. It was it was actually a pretty good judgment.
Okay, we have one last question out of our chat room. Do you help inventors today from the other side?
I try to influence young, brilliant people that have great ideas. They never know that we're how we do this from over here. We try to give them ideas. We try to give them guidance. So yes, I do try to help others. It's part of what I'm supposed to do over here.
Can you tell us what realm you occupy in heaven?
I'm in the upper sixth realm. It's a very good realm to be. I'm trying to advance into the top realm, but I'm very happy over here.
Okay. What do you consider the greatest mistake that you ever made in your life, and how did you prosper from it, the knowledge?
There's probably two things. One is ignoring my first daughter, and the second was selling my stock when I resigned from Apple. If I'd had all of the stock that I had at that point, I would have probably tripled my net worth. But it's called live and learn.
So we all do that. As you watch from the other side, what is your opinion of social media today?
I think social media does some good things, but I also think it does some terrible things. I see people almost become addicted to it. I see people being bullied on social media. I see opinions being distorted. The companies that control social media today have agendas. I think that social media should be neutral. I think that they should have freedom of speech, and I think that the owners should not have political goals and use public airways to try to achieve those goals.
Do you see some regulations that should be changed?
I don't see how the government can stay out of it. There are so many problems with social media. I watch and I see that the opinions are being guided by the companies. I see Google abusing privacy laws. I see them selling information they should never be selling. I see them using that information to try to lead people's actions. I think that it's going to be inevitable that the government has to come in and make some rules.
Okay, Steve, it's been a very fun and educational evening with you. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you have a final message?
Yes. I want to thank you for allowing me to come through tonight. I actually enjoyed it a little more than I thought I was going to. I was very, very lucky in my life. I had some good decisions, and I had people supporting those decisions. I tried to help the people that were helping me. I know that I made some people a considerable amount of money that were with me from the beginning. I made a bunch of mistakes in my life. There's no doubt about that. I probably should have been a little more flexible in some of the ways. I probably should have been a little easier on people that worked for me. But I worked very hard. I was driven. I had great people with me. I had people that had incredible technical abilities. One thing that I did understand totally in how I was running my companies is that I needed to hire the best people I could get. I knew I did not have the technical knowledge that many others had, but I knew marketing. I knew how to have concepts. I was a dreamer. I thought that there were certain things that people would want to have. Many of my ideas actually worked out, which made me very happy and made me a lot of money. I tried to use some of that money to help other people. I actually lived a fairly austere life myself. Today I watch the people with great sums of money having mansions, huge yachts. I can tell them unequivocally, now that I'm on the other side, that they need to use their extra money for helping others. I watch from over here and I see that there are so many people out there that need help. If people do not get involved and stop this runaway inflation, the high gas prices, it's going to be very, very difficult with lower incomes and even middle incomes to raise their families. There has to be cheaper higher education offered. There also needs to be an acceptance in the schools of vocational education. They have to train people to be the carpenters, the plumbers, the people that make things happen. We were the dreamers in business. We came up with concepts, but the growth of humanity is going to also depend on the people that build things and do things. So anyway, I'll stop. I'll get off my soapbox. Thank you very much for allowing me to come through. I totally appreciate it. If you would ever like me to come back again, then I would be happy to do it. So goodbye and thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Okay, next week we're going to have a fairly interesting interview as well. We're going to interview the spirit of Stephen Hawking, the famous, brilliant physicist. Many of you probably remember seeing him on television. He was the guy that was tied to this wheelchair with this terrible physical affliction, but yet had one of the most incredible minds. We've channeled with him before, and I guarantee it's going to be very interesting. Okay, you can submit questions and suggestions for future guests through our email. That's channelinghistory on parax@gmail.com, channelinghistory on parax@gmail.com. My 7th book, Channeling Jesus and the Holy Spirit, is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold. It's also available on Kindle. We have it for, I think, $2.99, so everybody can access it. Signed copies are only available on my websites, spiritspredict.com and wordsofgodthenandnow.com. All of our shows. We have over 270 videos on our YouTube channel. It's in my name, Barry Strohm. They're all for free. You can check them out. I think there's many, many messages there that will truly help you lead a better life. So thank you for listening. Please join us on Sundays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on the Parax Radio Network.
And I would also like to thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful week, and God bless you all.
Thanks for listening to Channeling History. Tune again next week for another electrifying episode, as we never know who will make an appearance or who will come through the portal. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2020. Our Story Begins by Kevin MacLeod, licensed through Incompetech.com.